Welcome to the Newsa-Cast YouTube channel. These Red Smith Banquet throwbacks are exclusive interviews of sports legends, powerful media personalities, and influential coaches. You won't find these anywhere else. Subscribe below and enjoy.
All right, Newsa-Cast listeners, this week we are going back to the throwback with a preview to March Madness, which is coming up very shortly. We get to sit in front of our TVs and pretend that we're sick so we can watch basketball on Thursday and Friday, or we pretend that we're working at work while we watch basketball on Thursday and Friday, the 14th and 15th. So
Some
to
say it's
preview
the best
that,
time of year.
it's the least productive time of the year for sure.
Yeah, could be.
To preview that, we are going back to what year, Joe?
19. No, Tosh, you threw me off with a tough question. Let's go with 1993, Tosh. 1993.
1993. And we are looking at Lou Carnesecca, who was the winningest coach in St. John's history. In fact, in 1993, that was the year after he was elected into the Basketball Hall of Fame in 1992.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, Tosh, when he was at St. John's, those were the teams that was in the wheelhouse when we were watching. At least I was watching college basketball. Those mid-'80 teams when you had Georgetown with Patrick Ewing, and you had, you had Raleigh Massimino running around, and you had all the teams,
some legends,
Dukes in North Carolina, and the games were just unbelievable.
right?
College basketball games. And yeah, he was Lou Carnesecca was just one of those characters. I mean, the coaches, basketball kind of more than anything, in college basketball really more than anything, the coaches are almost the characters, aren't they, of that sport. And Lou had a distinct face with those glasses and just a short little guy. And yeah.
And I mean, didn't realize until I was looking at he's still alive. He's 99 years old, just had his birthday January 25th. So 99 years old, still around. And he had some, probably one of the more famous NBA players for coming out of St. John's was Chris Mullin, who went on to have a decent NBA career as well. So you're going to enjoy this, Luke Carnesecca. And if you remember those times, you're our age, and it was a fun episode.
Tosh, when you told me that he was still alive, I almost dropped dead myself. I thought Lou was old in 1985. Lou is 99. Unbelievable. But yeah, he was here at the Red Smith Sports Award Banquet in 1993 at the Paper Valley Hotel. Jerry Kramer received the Red Smith Award that year. Steve Palermo, who has a great story, we'll tell that here in the next couple of weeks for sure. He received the Nice Guy Award, and then Lou Carnesecca was the main speaker that year. So yeah, sit back and enjoy Lou, and don't forget right below you there, hit that subscribe button. That really, really would help us. So subscribe to the Newsa-Cast, everybody, please. In the meantime, enjoy Lou Carnesecca.
We're very fortunate tonight to have one of the greatest basketball coaches of all time in the history of basketball in the United States to be our speaker. Lou Carnesecca announced his retirement as the Redmond head coach on April 13, 92, an outstanding 24-year career. During those years, he never failed to qualify for a postseason tournament, 18 NCAAs, 6 NITs. His record, 526 wins, 200 losses, a 725 average, and he directed the team to 18 20-victory seasons. On February 2nd, 91, Lou became only the 30th NC Division I coach and 11 among active coaches to reach the 500 career victory mark when the Red Men beat Seton Hall 81-65. Last year, Carnesecca led St. John to its 46th postseason tournament, the most in the nation. In 88-89, he brought the Red Men to a record 5th NIT championship. In 13 seasons of Big East competition, he posted a 139-79 conference record. On the regular season titles, winning in 85, tying 4 other occasions in 80, 83, 86, and 92. In 82-83, he was voted Coach of the Year by the Big East Conference, the U.S. basketball writers, and the National Basketball Coaches. A big hand to Mr. Lou Carnesecca.
Thank you.
Okay, partner.
Thank you, Bob. I don't want to say this has been a long evening, but when it started, Franklin D. Roosevelt was president. Steve, you were talking about Italians. Thank God I found you here. They keep knocking us off every Thursday night on the Untouchables. So I'm glad there's a couple of us left here. I've gone to many, many affairs, but believe me, I've never felt so honored and so proud to be at least followed two great gentlemen. One, of course, you know, Jerry. And Jerry, the good ones don't have to talk their way into it. They play their way into it, and you've played it. You're going to be in that Hall of Fame. No doubt about that. Steve, there's an old saying that when you do things for others, you start doing things for yourself. And you laid it right on the line. You put your life right on the line for someone else. And that's probably the greatest act that any human being can be. Ladies and gentlemen, you're probably wondering, how could I get involved in basketball? How could I ever coach basketball? Because you can see by my size, I probably would have been more comfortable on a horse. Let me tell you how I got started in this business. In 1950, I graduated St. John's University with some difficulty, okay? We had great referees in those days. I had a guy named Jimmy Sullivan who was working all the big games in the Garden. He said, Lou, how would you like to referee basketball in Puerto Rico? I said, Jimmy, I never worked a game in my life. He says, those are the perfect qualifications. And with that, I hopped the first plane to San Juan, Puerto Rico. I get off at the plane at 5 o'clock. At 7 o'clock, I'm in Cisco Escobar Stadium. 10,000 people, a place is wild. Here I am right in it. He said, Lou, don't worry about it. You'll have a great, great time. And I did. There were no problems for the first 5 minutes. However, with about 10 minutes in the first half, I have to call a foul on the local hero. And before I can turn and make the call to the official table, I'm hit with a barrage of stones, mangoes, and bottles. Being a college graduate, I worked the second half with a helmet. We didn't have any problems during halftime, and the second half went beautifully. However, on the following evening, we had to work a game in a town called Bayamon. And I noticed, as we drove up to the arena, that the court was completely surrounded with barbed wire. I said, Jimmy, what's this? Oh, Lou, don't worry about this. The fans here are very enthusiastic. They love the players. It's just to keep going. Good. We had no problems in the first half. Nobody knocked the door down at halftime. However, with 5 seconds left in the ballgame, I have to call a technical foul on the high scorer. And again, before I could turn and make the call, I'm in between 10,000 people, in between 12 cops, and I'm being ushered out of town. I decided right there and then to have a meeting with the commissioner, a Mr. Garcia. He was a kindly old gent, a man who had been involved with the Pan American Games, the Central American Games. He really understood the climate of that area. I said, Mr. Garcia, as you notice, I'm having some problems. What hints can you give me? What suggestions can you make that would improve my technique? And he looked at me and says, I would get a new job. And with that, I took the first plane back to New York, and I got the coaching job on the east side of New York, a little Catholic school called St. Anne's Academy. You always had to wear your sneakers. Somebody was always chasing you. It was called the Bucket of Blood League. Now we have some coaches here. How would you like to start off your career and lose your first 9 games in a row? Have the players look up and say, is this our leader? Is this the guy that's going to lead us on to victory? But like most young coaches, I had tried to give him too much. Thank God, with the help of Frank McGuire and 5 scholarships, we were able to go out and win a few ball games. I can remember this particular evening. We were playing All Hallows High School. We had not beaten them in 60 years. And this one particular night had a kid named Danny Powers. He comes down with no time on the clock, hits a J. So everybody's excited. We're all running off the court. As I'm running into the dressing room, I noticed this kindly old lady's coming up. I said, gee, what a lovely old lady. She's going to congratulate. She started whacking me over the head with an umbrella. Now, let me tell you about this beautiful court we played on. It was the Madison Square Garden of its day. At one end of the court, you had the stands, that if you came down and went in for a layup, went right into the stands, our fans would hold you. That was number one. At the other end of the court, there was an open doorway which led out into an alleyway. You guessed it, if you came down on the fast break, went right out the doorway, into the alleyway, our fans had closed the door behind you, and you wind up playing with 4 men. You know what? The other team didn't even know it. Like we always talk about referees. We used to pick our own. We could have beaten the Chicago Bulls. So with that type of advantage, I was very fortunate to go on to St. John's University. And I think this is where I got the biggest break in my life. I was so fortunate to work with a great, great coach. You all remember Coach Leipzig as a great strategist, as a great tactician. But he was a man that only had an 8th grade education, but he had that rare ability to get diverse personalities and have them blend together. So to Coach Leipzig, I'll be forever indebted. And I can remember my first whack at the big time. You guessed it, we're playing Georgetown, that same Georgetown that's caused me all these problems all this year. And I can still remember that night. McDonough Hall, places jumping, going wild. And we have a little ritual. Before we start the game, we'll usually put our hands together and we'll say a little prayer like, Our Lady of Victory, pray for us. Now, I'm not going to say that I was nervous or shook up. When we put our hands together, I started to say, oh my God, I'm oddly sorry. Thank God, Bobby Max hits a jump shot in the overtime. We go on to win, of course, then I went on with the New York Mets, what I call the purgatorial period of my life. I've been asked 1,000 times, Lou, what's the basic difference between professional and collegiate ball? Well, if you would ask my wife today, she'd say $300,000, okay? But you may wonder, you know, because you see all the glory, you see all the money they make, and so help me God, the money they make wouldn't fit in this room today. But there are many things that we consider, because in this great country, with over 250 million people, there are only maybe about 275, 300 professional basketball players. So just to be invited to camp, just to go for a tryout, it's a great feat. So being in a professional field is very good. But for my personality, I felt that I belonged in a collegiate scene. Having coached for 42 years in some areas, that may be disputed, okay? But you may say, well, Lou, has the game changed? Yes, it definitely has. The game is faster, it's become more aggressive. The players are certainly more sophisticated. The game is up and down the court with a 24-second clock. The players now certainly can jump higher, can shoot better, know a lot more things, perhaps not as thorough. And has coaching changed? No doubt in my mind. When I first broke into the game, I was allowed to make mistakes. I was allowed to grow with the job. But today, these young coaches, if they don't win in 2 or 3 years, they're gone. We have an old saying, keep your sea bagged unpacked. And today, this is the problem that we have with sports. Why? Because of the tremendous pressure put on this particular game. I noticed the players, in the old days when we sat down for our pregame meal, the kids were so hungry, they'd eat the table. But today, when they sit down at that pregame meal, they take a couple of bites, and then all of a sudden, they have to get up. They're nervous. They're upset because they have neither the experience nor the, shall we say, the attitude to control this great, great fear. Now, you said, Lou, you know, talking about athletics, and that's why we're here this evening. It's often maligned. You hear sports, you know, often criticized. But all of you have competed sometime in your lives in athletics. Can you think of a better training ground than playing sports? Where in this world do our youngsters learn how to take orders and not sulk? Where do they learn to take suggestions from their teammates and not get upset? Where do they learn to sacrifice, to give up themselves when a coach says, tonight I don't want you to shoot. I want you to make the pass. I want you to play defense. And another important thing, where in this world do you learn to live with adverse calls? And you and I know they call them. Believe me, it used to cost me $75 a whack, tax-free, when I was coaching pro ball. And what about when you win? Are you gracious? But I think the most important thing you learn about athletics is what about when you get beat? What about when you get defeated? Do you have the guts to get off that deck and come back the next day? I know we don't like to be winners, so help me God. If I'm on that operating table, I pray to God that that surgeon is a winner, right? And by the way, has anybody ever flown Catskill's airline? I can't tell you, I pray to God that that pilot would be a winner, especially when he handed me a parachute. Now, we're talking about winning and losing. And of course, it's always very, very important. And we know that. But sometimes we're not going to win. Sometimes we're going to get beat. Why not give the other fellow credit? He deserves it. And I have to tell you a little story about I had a team back in about 79, 80. We were playing Oregon State on national TV in Macy's window Christmas week. We went 18 minutes without a score. Now, Scott O'Malley, at least a foul shot. Even by tripping, at least I'll get a shot. We went 18 minutes without a score. The next week we go up and play Providence. We go 12 minutes without a score. Finish that ball game, go down and play Seton Hall, and go 8 minutes without a score. We were building up an immunity, okay? Let me say this. I tried everything. You talk about motivating. I tried playing music before practice, after practice, during practice. I even had T-shirts made up. The gang that couldn't shoot straight. Nothing helped, no matter what I did. Ladies and gentlemen, you know what helped? Graduation. That helped. People talk about having good teams. Say, Lou, you did a great job when I had the 84-85 team. We're talking about the Chris Mullin. My mother could have coached that team, okay? Some of the best jobs are done with teams that the record doesn't show. You know, we're in the age of criticism, intolerance. And if you have many parents here, maybe you have some youngsters. And my appeal is to them, please, don't ever let anyone tell you that you can't play, that you're too slow, that you're too fat, you're not smart enough. Let me tell you about a story about a young man who played for me. When he was in the 8th grade, they said, hey, forget about basketball. You're too slow and you can't jump. He's now a sophomore in high school. Again, the doubters, the skeptics. Play baseball. You're too slow and you can't jump. He's now a senior. 100 schools want his services. Don't go to St. John's. You're too slow and you can't jump. He's now a freshman in college. Makes Rookie of the Year. As a sophomore, makes the Pan American team. As a junior, the Olympic team. And he's now a senior. He's on everybody's All-American squad. That year, signs a contract with the Golden State Warriors for $26 million. Can you imagine if Chris Mullin could run and jump, would he have gone? You know, you talked about Mr. Lombardi, Jerry, and I can't tell you, you know, how many times I think of him, you know. He was a Brooklyn fella, coached at St. Cecilia's in New Jersey, but he was famous for saying a couple of things which still stand today. He says, talent is not enough. You have to work hard. The second thing is you have to get along with people. And he was so right. And he mentioned something else, though, pressure. And I can't tell you how correct he was. Ladies and gentlemen, I think many times you hear a player say he choked, he lumped up. I think that's one of the unkindest things that ever can be said. Because put that certain player in that certain situation, on numerous occasions, he's going to come through. Especially when they're rookies. Of course they're nervous. Of course they're going to flunder. But put that guy in that same situation, he's going to come through with flying colors. And I can remember a young kid I had playing for me. We were playing for the Catholic High School in Madison Square Garden. And you had about 13, 14, 15,000 people. What about 3 seconds ago, I had this young freshman, this skinny kid, drives in for a layup, gets whacked. He's got to go to the foul line. He makes one, ties the score. He makes the second one, we win the city championship. It would have been tremendous in the city of how many million people. And I can still see this youngster. He goes up to the foul line, all shaking. The referee gives him the ball, so help me God, when he gave him the ball, the kid couldn't shoot. The ball froze in his hand. So naturally, the referee had to take that ball out of his hand, let him regain his composure, and it gave the ball back to him. You guess where the first shot went, and I ain't daring you, okay? The second one went 2 or 3 feet. And I noticed as the game was over, this youngster leaving the court crying. So I put my arms, I says, you're going to win an awful lot of ball games when you finish playing. He did, became an All-American, not only in high school, but in college. So please, I know sometimes we can be intolerant, but that expression of lumping up always hits me right in the goal because you can be better than what you are. Put you in that situation, you're going to come through. And I want to talk about little things. I know, ladies and gentlemen, that you've been here rather long, and it's very difficult for the mind to absorb what the seat can endure. But I will say this, but we talk about little things. I can remember 1972, we're playing for the World Championship, Indianapolis Pacers, okay? The Pacers. With about 7 seconds to go, we're up 2 points. My kid throws the ball in, kid named Freddie Lewis, steals the ball, goes in, gets whacked, makes the hoop, goes to the foul line, bang, makes the foul shot, we're down by 1 point. As you know, in professional ball, when you call a timeout, you get the ball at midcourt. Now, I had Rick Barry. Now, God almighty, if you had to mention 10 of the top players in the history of the game, I think you'd find it almost impossible to leave his name off that elite list. He's a great, great player. So everybody in the world knew he was going to get the ball. My mother, who doesn't know a basketball from a bocce ball, knows Rick Barry's going to get the ball. So we set up a little play. And please, the play wasn't the important thing. It was just a question of giving a pick and coming around to an open side. So we set this simple play up. Rick throws a fake. The guy who's playing him, ba-da-bum, right on the floor, fell right on his face. Here comes Rick, right around the screen, okay? There's nobody near him. If you come up on him and drive, he's going to lay it in and get 2. If you drop off, he's going to stick to 3. And yet, the great Rick Barry, he was so anxious. He wanted to get that ball and go in and score. For a split second, he takes his eye off the ball. The ball hits his thumb, and on the third bounce, out of bounds. Now, Jerry, you would have caught that ball. Bobby, you would have caught the ball. And you would have caught the ball. How would you like to lose the world championship on a little thing like that? Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to know that after the game, I was the picture of complete comportment. Walked into the dressing room. I said, fellas, don't worry about it. Go home, have a great vacation. I'll see you next year, September the 13th. I said, look at the coach. What a sport. Knows how to lose. Good. I'm finished with them. Now I have to go in and face the media, TV, radio, all the newspaper writers. I walk in, gentlemen, it's only a game. The world goes on. I gotta say, Jesus, Lou, you're unbelievable. Now here's a man that knows how to handle defeat. So I got through with them. Went into the dressing room, put my coat on. In those days we used to wear a hat, and I'm walking out. And of course, there's all the Indiana fans that just won the world championship. They say, Lou, what a great guy you are. Sure, I'm a great guy. You just beat me for the world championship. And I'm walking out, get back to the hotel, sit down, have a nice dinner, nice steak, a couple glasses of red wine. And my trainer was there. He said, Lou, I can't understand this. It's amazing how you've handled adversity, how you've taken this defeat. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to know that night at 12 o'clock, Fritz stopped me from jumping off the roof. And these are some of the things that athletics will do with you. I've gone to many affairs. And there's always you notice you can almost smell the crowd, just like a coach can smell the players. He can smell when things are going to wrong, just like a doctor. You walk in his office, he looks at you. He can almost make a diagnosis, except surgeons, okay? Now, I'm not going to go any more than that. Ladies and gentlemen, you have this affair, and it's no doubt, it's been a huge success. And why? Because of athletics. It's one of the greatest common denominators there is. We're all here to pay tribute, yes, but because we really love sports. Now, the victories, the defeats, they're going to be forgotten. But just think of all the marvelous relationships you built up with your friends, with your children. Why? Because of sports. I certainly hope that you'll never lose this feeling, because the cordiality, the warmth that is here this evening, I hope that will last a lifetime. I thank you for your support. I salute you, and I wish this program continued success. Thank you very much.
Please subscribe to this channel, give this video a thumbs up, and hit that notification bell so you get notified when we post another great episode or interview. Download the podcast on Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you for your support.